Welcome to From Boxes to Browsers, a digitization roadmap for small institutions. We're so glad that you're here. Many small institutions face similar digitization challenges, whether that be donated works, scattered records, limited time and staff. But today we're going to show you that digitization is not only doable, but that it's transformative. So who is Artwork Archive hosting this webinar? For those that are new to us, Artwork Archive began in 2010 as one of the first cloud-based art inventory systems. We provide tools for artists, collectors, and collecting institutions to digitize, manage, share, and preserve their collections. The platform is accessible enough for small personal collections, but powerful enough to support enterprise-level organizations. And today we serve folks in over 130 countries, including museums, universities, and cultural organizations like yourselves. And beyond the platform itself, we're committed to supporting the field through free educational content. So we offer guides, webinars like today's, and resources to help institutions strengthen their collections management practices and engage their communities. And we will be using Artwork Archive as an example because that is the database that I represent. Samantha at CPAC uses us as well, but know that for digitization, whatever CMS collection management system you're using, you can get best practices out of this presentation. So with that, the people behind the content in these little small windows, I am Elysian Kogelmeyer, Head of Partnerships here at Artwork Archive, and I am so lucky to be joined by Samantha Johnston. She is the Executive Director and Curator at the Colorado Photographic Art Center, which she has led since 2015. So happy 10-year anniversary, Samantha. And she has been recognized as one of Colorado's top 100 creatives. She has a lot of helpful insights to share in the presentation later today. So thank you, Samantha. We're so glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
It's really funny that we're in our separate little Zoom windows because actually Samantha is down the street since I am based in Denver, where CPAC is as well. So digitization can sound like a daunting tech project, but at its heart, it's about building usable knowledge. So it's how you make the collection work for you, whether that means easier reporting, faster responses, or just less chaos during a crisis. One theme and an important thing we wanted to get across is that you don't have to digitize everything overnight or do it perfectly. You can start with what will help your team function better. That may be searchable condition reports, a shared artist database, or the ability to pull a location report in 2 clicks from your database instead of searching for hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe on site. And a few keynotes here to outline is that you're reducing, that single person silo, knowledge silo. If you have one person who has access to the records, and that you are going to be supporting access, action, and adaptability by digitizing. So why online access matters now? A lot of this you may already know, but we wanted to share in case you have to make the case to leadership on why you want to embark upon a digitization project. So digital access isn't just about visibility, it supports your mission in some really powerful ways. So there's the engagement and scholarship piece. We saw a lot of academic institutions are joining us today. So give your community ways to interact with your collection on-site or remotely. Support researchers, educators, and students with deeper context and access to your records. You won't be you won't have to rely on people walking in through the door. You can send information really quickly via email. Internal success, good digital systems help with continuity, onboarding, and interdepartmental transparency. As I said earlier, you don't rely on one person. And the information won't be lost or forgotten if there's turnover. I've seen a lot of organizations come to us and they're interested in a database because they had a curator who had all the information on their computer or in a spreadsheet, and they don't have access to it anymore because the curator has left. Emergency preparedness. We've produced a lot of content on this recently. You want to make sure you have everything you need on hand to quickly react to theft, loss, and disaster. And we have recorded webinars on emergency preparedness, insurance, and the like to help along with this process. Funding support. You can show your impact to donors and grant makers, and a well-documented, visible collection demonstrates good stewardship. And so you'll be doing yourself a favor when applying for grants. And lastly, future proofing. So you'll be documenting and sharing your collection now so that it protects the legacy for the future. And digitization avoids overhandling so that you can preserve your fragile objects. One of our organizational clients, Evelyn Pierre, the founder and executive director of the Haitian Heritage Museum, shared the importance of digitizing for their museum when she said, "Getting your foundation right is what is going to catapult you to the next level. We put it off for so long, but now we look so professional and we are preserving the legacy of our culture." She also shared, this was a fun insight, that it was helpful for the 990. She said that she knew what the collection's about and so that she could have a dollar amount associated with it. So that was a helpful little perk. And then there's always the risk of inaction if you don't digitize. Without digital records, you lose time, risk errors, and limit access and visibility. So if you're a glasses half empty kind of person, maybe that resonates. Okay, when it comes to the digitization process, again, it's a work in progress, and you don't want perfection to get in the way of progress. So we outlined here at Artwork Archive, we've been a part of this process quite often with a number of organizations with different types of collections. And we synthesize the process into 10 steps. And again, this slide will be available to you after the presentation. But I wanted to hit upon each number. So number one, conduct an inventory. When embarking on a digitization project, it's important to first take inventory. Evelyn, again, from the Haitian Heritage Museum, told me that she said, "You never know what you have until you pull everything out," because collections data is often scattered across paper files, cabinets, boxes, computers. And so your goal is to bring everything together in one place. You'll want to prioritize what you will digitize. So if you have limited resources, you may want to start with your most significant or at risk or frequently used works. The Haitian Heritage Museum started with digitizing over 300 books. Then they moved to old photographs, and then they jumped into paintings. A hospital art program we worked with digitized their upcoming exhibition first, then moved on to their permanent collection because they wanted the exhibition to be accessible and online first. The Berman Museum of Arts at Ursinus College prioritized its Francois Gillot collection because it's central to their mission, and digitizing it helped preserve their fragile materials and expand online access for students and scholars. And Samantha will get into how they prioritized for their organization. Thirdly, establish what info you'll record. So no two institutions start from the same place. Some have only a title, an artist name. Others are lucky enough to even have a date. So while a few have paragraphs of provenance and folders of documentation. So before digitizing, decide what information matters to you. Is it values and appraisals for insurance, images, artist details for research, creating a reference document so future staff and volunteers stay consistent? And if multiple people are cataloging, which is great, hold an internal meeting to set ground rules and assign a project lead. Too many cooks can cause confusion, so you want to agree on a shared framework and language to set you up for long-term success. And Samantha, I saw you pop on. Do you have something to add? No, you're just...
No, just ready to start talking whenever you're ready to have me.
Then you want to make sure you take high quality photos. So actually, Samantha's going to share that in her flow. But I also ask collections managers that utilize Artwork Archive. And one collection manager at the University Art Museum at New Mexico State University shared a little bit about their process because, again, this is not a one size fits all. They began with borrowed space and equipment from the university's photography studio because they didn't have it at the museum. And then they gradually built capacity through small grants, which is a great reminder that you can start small. The grant was for their own digital camera and laptop so that they could create an untethered shooting system. And they used a simple mobile setup, a wheeled table, and compact copy stand so they could easily move it in and out of the station when it wasn't in use. And for those that don't have space, a team, or even a DSLR, know that when in a pinch, if you're using Artwork Archive, an image is better than nothing. So you can take a photo of it with your phone and add it to your object record right there on your phone because you can access our account from anywhere. Number 5, add in artwork provenance and artist details, similar to uploading images. If you're using a cloud-based platform like Artwork Archive, you can quickly, easily add the artwork information you have into the artwork record. And as you progress through your digitization project, you can even filter within Artwork Archive by missing information, ensuring that you're capturing all of the info you need. So you can see what objects are missing, titles, images, artist names. Assign your artwork to a location. So digitizing your collection means you always know where your object lives. No more scavenger hunts. Location details are critical for emergency preparedness and insurance claims. And location tracking also pairs with loan tracking. And I'm going to let Samantha share her cautionary tale on that one later. Add important contacts. So don't forget the people behind the object, the artist, maker, donor, lender. Their stories and legacies deserve to be recorded and remembered if you have them. Upload relevant documents. So digitization keeps your files, condition reports, loan forms, media files right where they belong, attached to the object record, not hiding in a manila folder or a separate desktop folder so you have access to it. Record conservation. So add treatment plans, condition reports, and images. If you're using Artwork Archive, that's located under the maintenance records. And so these details help future conservators care for each piece properly because they can see what has been done in the past. And lastly, to remember that when it's digitized, that means you can access it, you can share it, and you want to keep maintaining it. So with cloud access, you can pull up records anywhere, your desk, storage, even if you're at a conference. You can easily share information via reports, private rooms, individual documents. And remember, and Samantha's going to get into this, it's not a one and done task. Keep your database current by logging new acquisitions, updates, conservation notes regularly. It's a work in progress. Some of you may be asking what information is worth saving. We get this question a lot at Artwork Archive of what to add to the object record. This is not a one-size-fits-all slide, but rather here to help you brainstorm and determine what is important to your organization. Beggars can't be choosers too. You may just have what you have. That is what you have to add. And then you can decide what you want to research and add later. And I just love reminding folks that it's not just the details and the documents, but also the storytelling records, because there's so much storytelling behind the artworks, the artist's inspiration, the owner's history, how the work came into your organization, how it was exhibited. It's all part of the cultural heritage and legacy. And one example of how you can quickly share out your artworks and information. This is a private room at Artwork Archive. You can quickly create one and share it if someone doesn't need access to your account to access the information. I've seen academic institutions share with professors if they need to know what's in your collection for an upcoming class, and then they share it with their students before they come on site. Museums share with scholars. Again, if scholars can't fly over and view the works in person. Public art admins share with their leadership. Collectors share with family members when estate planning. So it's just a helpful way to share out information quickly when you have centralized it all into a database. So that was a lot. Remember, this is recorded, so if you want to go back into the digitization process, 10 tips, feel free. But now we're going to look at how Samantha's small team put these ideas into practice, and she's going to give such great examples. I'm really excited for her to share her process. So thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. So just to give a little background, the Colorado Photographic Art Center is a nonprofit photo center based in Denver, Colorado, and our mission is to support the photographic arts through exhibitions, education, and community outreach. We have a physical space, which you can see in this slide, in the Golden Triangle of Denver, so near History, Colorado, and the Denver Art Museum. We built this space out, so it was very purposely built. And we were founded in 1963 because at that time the Denver Art Museum would not show photography as a fine art. That has clearly changed. But we were board run from 1963 till 2011. So we have had a history of having space, not having space. In my tenure, I have moved the organization 3 times and had 4 locations. So that can make it very difficult to get an archive kind of set up and get things in order. I will also say that I don't have a collections background. I have a photography background, and I've worked to really understand the needs and work with staff members and interns to get a stronger understanding of process and how to move forward. It was an undertaking for sure. Our collection was basically started in 1963, and we are often receiving gifts for our collection. So when I took over in 2015, I had all these boxes and needed to kind of start figuring out a solution for like, what do we have? What's in them? Is everything up to date? We'd had some board members in the 90s who did an amazing job kind of cataloging everything we did have. And so we have these physical card catalogs. Elisa, if you can go to the next slide. So this just gives you an idea of our last location was on Bannock Street. So the image on the left shows kind of where our collection has been housed in protected boxes, but not always, not always in the space that we ran, sometimes in someone's basement. So, we are still going through our collection to figure out damage and things that have unfortunately happened over our 60-year history. Since we've moved into our new location in Lincoln, we have a dedicated room that we're now housing the collection in, which you can see on the right. And we're still kind of figuring out storage for this and re-going through pieces that are framed, making sure things are wrapped properly. So it's, as Elias said, it's a process. If you can go to the next slide. So with that, I have a very small team. It's myself and one other full-time employee and then 2 part-time employees. And that's only been in the last year and a half. So we are very reliant on interns as an institution to help us with exhibitions, collections, social media. And so we've really worked with interns to kind of open things up. And while the kind of rule of thumb is to really open once, we just haven't, we've tried to get a sense of what's in all the boxes. And then now that we're moved in and really settled, we're kind of doing one last look, double measuring, condition reporting, everything. So, but it took time, and it really at first was just let's go box by box and figure out what we have. And at that point, it was around 2017 that I started working with Artwork Archive, because we had these sheets of paper that kind of sort of talked about the work in the collection. We had a numbering system that was a 186 and the number, and that system, I have no idea what that connected to. So now in 2022, we've made the decision to kind of keep the old system of extensioning and then moving to a year, so 2022, and which however many pieces came in that year. But, those collections are changing and moving, and we have this long history. And so we've really had to think about piece by piece how we're going to move it forward. So we had, once we moved into Bannock, we were at that location for 5 years. So we did some pretty significant projects of photographing, getting everything into Artwork Archive once we started using the archive, and then doing initial photographs and measurements to check things, going through our paper archive, figuring out what letters we may or may not, what provenance we had. And then the pandemic hit and everyone was in their homes. And so we made a decision. I wasn't quite ready to make everything public, but we made the decision to turn on our artwork archive to be a public viewing so that people could see what we had and they could spend time looking at photographs. Many people don't realize that we have a almost 800 print collection as part of the institution. So it was a really kind of exciting time for people to learn more. It also gave us an opportunity for people to write us and say, oh, that's my image, but it's turned the wrong way, or the name is spelled incorrectly. And some of that was just information that was maybe put on the cards we had incorrectly. So it also provided an opportunity for us to make changes and to fix things. And this has been an undertaking for sure in my 10 years. You can go to the next slide. So here's an example of, that digitization and just kind of making it work. So we are a photo center and we do have the equipment. We have this really great copy stand. And so I had 2 interns and we just set up, but we didn't have tons of space, our main gallery at that location. So we set them up in kind of our darkroom space when no one was using the darkroom, and set up the copy stand with lights so that we could start photographing the work, and have better documentation of the work that we had. So I worked with these interns. Some of them had photo backgrounds, so we talked through, lighting and then how to make the pictures. And again, you can just do things with phones or iPads, but we did have this equipment, which made it easier for us to document. If you can go to the next slide. So this is a project we've started to do in the last couple years where we're actually using an iPad and using a PDF program where you can take an image of the front and back of the object and then note the condition, and then we can upload these PDFs to Artwork Archive. So now we're doing better condition reports that really show the details on, here's where there's an issue, there's lines in this part of the image. So we're now working that as we open a box that we check dimensions, that we do a condition report, make sure that what we have is the most up to date, and then kind of putting the object away, and then not having to pull it back out until we're showing it for something or loaning the work. So making sure things are packed properly. So that's been our last couple of years. I have an intern right now who is working on repacking, working on condition reports, working on adding in with the new extension numbers to add in work that hasn't been added in. So it's a process, and sometimes we go through periods of time where we don't have an intern and the work just has to take a pause. Next slide. So this is an example of the kind of card catalog file that we had. So again, appreciative of former board members who did this work, because it was definitely a process. So, and you can see that 186 number, I've tried to find out, we don't really have a lot of answers, but even these cards have limited information, there's no donor information, the date. So we have information, but it's limited. So we still have these historical records. They are in a box. They've all been scanned and attached to the records and artwork archive. So we also now have digitized these as well. That was a whole nother project that an intern just spent a summer scanning these documents and putting in the file name. And creating systems so that we can keep track. While we have the information on Artwork Archive, we also have a backup on our kind of systems internally. So how to keep track of all that digital information. This is the piece Eliza was mentioning. So we have this photograph of Dwight D. Eisenhower. It was on loan to a church that he had visited and participated in. I later found the loan paperwork that said the loan was supposed to be a year or 2 years. And 13 years later, when we were at Bannock, the church reached back out to me and said, we have a photograph of yours from your collection. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you so much. So again, now that we have Artwork Archive, when we loan work, there's such a better tracking system that we can really, identify where the work is. If it's not in the building, have reminders of when it comes back, so that instances like this, we luckily got the work back. Thank goodness, but it could have been, upon further digging into our historical records, I found the loan agreement, but no one had kept up on it because as again, we were board run for so many years that it's hard when that transition happens to keep track of those things. Next slide. Oh, I'm out of images. Okay. So that was really, those are a lot of the things, it's kind of come in different levels. It was kind of first figuring out what we had, photographing, documenting, getting everything into the archive. And now the work is to really like build out more of the knowledge in the archive. If there's any other living artists that we didn't have paperwork from, going back and retroactively getting paperwork so that we have proper documentation. And some artists, I just can't find them. So it's a mix for sure, but it's always a work in progress. And I think that's what
That was great. Thank you, Samantha.
was going through my notes to make sure I didn't, it's just now that we have a searchable solution, it's just so much better to be able to find things and know where things are. We host a big festival, Month of Photography, every other year. And this March, we were able to loan pieces to multiple institutions. And it was great because that was all made easier, that like the institution can check, they can see it on our database, but then also we know that it's out and when it's coming back. It's just so much easier to keep track of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if as we move into the next part of the presentation, if anything comes up, definitely feel free to add in, and especially since we'll be talking about bringing the collections online. So thank you for sharing your process. It's been an honor to watch it from the wings here at Artwork Archive and to see about all the great work that you're doing, and to hear how it has been helpful. And I've been wanting to bring you onto a webinar for so long, to share your process. So I appreciate the time that you gave. But we're not done yet. Here is the quote unquote browsers part of the presentation, the dessert, if you will. So if you have your collection centralized in one cloud-based database, then you can easily bring it online. And if you're using Artwork Archive, you can embed your collection right onto your website, syncing your inventory, your individual collections, artist pages, map if you're a public art program, or spread across a campus. It can all be embedded onto your website. And the benefits that we've heard from organizations that are bringing their collections online is that it's boosting discoverability, enhancing access, promoting engagement, and preserving cultural heritage. And we've heard from a number of organizations the benefits that they've had. The Haitian Heritage Museum said, funny enough, that people thought we were bigger because of everything we had online. New Mexico State University saw a similar boost in web traffic after publishing their collection with Artwork Archive. I just wanted to show an example. We have plenty of content on the benefits and steps to easily bring your collection online, articles. I've hosted webinars on this topic, so it can be a whole presentation in itself. Here is a screenshot of one museum, the Sugar Hill Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling. And what I wanted to call out here within the screenshot is that your artists will also love this additional exposure. And so they get a boost in marketing beyond perhaps a temporary exhibition. And so a great way to showcase your artists. If I were to click into one of these artist profiles, I would learn more about the artist, and see the works of theirs in the collection. And here we have a website embed from the Berman Museum of Art at Ursinus College, which has been doing really thoughtful work around both accessibility and discoverability of their collection. The Berman digitized its Francois Gillot archive. Once it was only accessible by request, which is probably where a lot of you live, but now they can securely share materials with scholars, students, interested community members, anywhere. Their collections manager said that digitization has helped them reach diverse audiences from classrooms to scholars worldwide, while also reducing handling risks. So, again, for those more fragile objects. And their executive director added, we're shifting from being a hidden gem to a visible resource for our community. And it's a great example of how digitization moves institutions from preservation to participation, expanding visibility and engagement. And I actually interviewed the team at the Berman because I was so fascinated about their digitization of the Gillot archive and again, how it helps them be move from being a hidden gem to very much a visible resource. And so in the slides later, you'll see there's an article if you're interested in their process and their success and wins that they have had digitizing the archive. So Samantha and I thought it would be fun to pull up some common digitization questions. Maybe these are questions you've been pondering before the webinar, even during. We at Artwork Archive, since we help with the process, get these questions a lot. First question being, how do we start if our data is inconsistent or incomplete? And the recommendation of, start by gathering what you know. And Samantha really said it beautifully about what they had in their boxes, what they had for information, what had been recorded in the past, and using what you have, and then thinking of digitization as a process and not a one-time project. So we see academic institutions having students research objects and add the additional information that they have found into the database. As Samantha said, people coming in from the public with some information once objects are online, sharing tidbits and details that the organization might not have. Do you have anything to add to this, Samantha?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that like it's just figuring out and what it's going to look like to, I always try to think about as we've been taking on projects for our collection, like when I'm not here and there isn't anyone else on my team that's been around during this project, like how do we make this so that like it's explainable to the person who come, because essentially that's what I came to a collection that like lots of people had touched and there were never clear like we left off here or we did this because. And so I've really tried to kind of like really clean up the data and figure out ways that like this can kind of, these systems can live on in the future beyond just like, oh, we did this or we photographed it. Like now these records live in the room with the collection, and there's folders for the artists. And again, working with interns to help us like create those documents or create the folders. But, and again, we've moved into this location where we have a 10-year lease. So like we're now really thinking about like where things are going to live, the boxes aren't just getting moved around all over a place. So you can actually find them easier. So yeah.
That's great. A question we get often, what's the best way to photograph or scan works on a small budget? So the long and the short of it being, you don't need fancy gear. I mean, on the one end, it's not the best case, but it's still accessible. Our phones take good photos, and if that is what you have, especially if you're a private collector, you can photograph your artwork on your phone. And again, with an account with Artwork Archive, since we're cloud-based, you can log into your account from your phone and add the photo right there. And then you can go beyond with that smartphone and you make sure you're using natural light, or as here in the slide, saying using 2 diffused lamps can produce great results so that you're avoiding shadows. And a reminder that good lighting consistency can go a long way. And we have Samantha, the photographer, so she can have a workshop just on this topic for us. I will say I asked some other organizations as well how they photographed their objects. And at the Berman Museum of Art, they worked with steadfast imaging to professionally photograph the Gillot collection. And they used a few setups for the different artwork sizes. So as a reminder, it's photographing a small object is going to be different from like a large format painting, right? And so for small works, they use a tabletop copy stand. And then with larger paintings, they photographed on a drop black wall. They used, I believe, a piece of cloth to photograph in the gallery. And archival materials can be scanned by volunteers, student assistants, and the main takeaway being that you don't need a high-end studio to get started. A reminder from the New Mexico State University, they borrowed from the photography studio. You can work with what you have. And then if possible, and if you have capacity and resources, you can bring in outside help for more complex or delicate pieces. Anything to add to that, Samantha?
No, I mean just like creating even light, thinking about and that if you can get a copy stand or at least on a tripod, any of that helps. So
another question that I've also seen coming through the listservs a lot is how to handle for copyright or permissions when putting work online. Because, as Samantha was sharing with her objects, a lot of works that have come into your collection by acquisition, donation, probably came into the collection before there was the internet, right? And so there isn't paperwork outlining permissions. And so what we recommend is start by confirming what rights your organization actually holds, what you have to date. And if unsure, a reminder to share low res images. And the good news is that if you're using Artwork Archive, we automatically downsize those images to 72 DPI for web viewing. Provide a clear attribution if you have one. And then when possible, reach out to the artists or those managing their estate for permission and document that. And you can save that again within your Artwork Archive account, either in the contact record or in the object record, because transparency and documentation are key with that. But I've heard from a lot of academic institutions and museums that their deeds of gifts didn't include language around online image rights, and so it's something that they're updating currently. And as a reminder, you can always contact your legal advisors or a legal team if you have access to them for advice on that. Anything else to add, Samantha?
no.
And then how can volunteers or interns play a role? I took a moment because I was going to say, so many questions that we get when people come to Artwork Archive about starting to use our platform is the feeling of overwhelm because it may be a staff member of one, a small team, and they may or may not have volunteers, and looking for ways to quickly get the information into their Artwork Archive account to digitize. And to remember that, your interns are great, but also board members. I've heard from other museums and art centers that they use interested, engaged board members. Like Samantha shared, some of them may have more information than you do if you just joined the organization. Other community volunteers will be helpful for data entry, scanning, photography. Sometimes, there may be a photography school down the street or an art center that's offering adult classes, and you can see if anyone with skills and interest is interested in photographing your works. And there's a lot of great resources out there that you can provide to these interns, volunteers about safe handling of the objects while they're doing it. And I have a link to that later in a slide. But yeah, Samantha, you've worked with interns, and do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I will. And also, I mean, going back to former board members to kind of get information, but then also I had a board member recently, we had to kind of re-up our insurance around and our appraisal. And so I had a board member who helped me work through that project because it just was like more than I could manage, but we had to get it done for our insurance company. So that was super helpful. And then for interns, yeah, I mean, it's really taking that time at the start of their internship to, we have a handful of videos and materials we have them read through and look at, and then talk through as we start, pulling boxes so they know how to handle properly and we're not just damaging objects. So,
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the next slide. There's some helpful resources that other organizations have put forth. I'm sure there's much more, but these were top of mind that came into my inbox as I was planning the webinar. In a few days, on Tuesday, October 28th, the Conservation Center for Art and Historic Artifacts in Philadelphia is hosting a free webinar on handling for digitization. And so getting a little bit more into the detail. And they are a wonderful resource. I've had the pleasure of presenting for them on digitization using a collection management system. So highly recommend them as a resource, and they have free webinars as well. And then two documents that can help along the way. The AIC Guide to Digital Photography and Conservation Documentation. It is for purchase, the guide, and I've included the link, which you will get at the end of this presentation with the slides. And then also the foundation of the Institute of Conservation actually hosted a webinar on the basics of collection photography, and so sharing the slides as well. And then here at Artwork Archive, we talk about it a lot because it's a big piece of how people can utilize us and utilize their Artwork Archive account. And so also linked here are some tips for digitizing. Really excited. This is our first webinar just focusing on digitization steps for smaller institutions with limited resources. So this recording will live on our webinar page. But we also have other webinar recordings and articles that can be of assistance. And a few other resources. We have a newsletter if you'd like to sign up for it, our link to our blog, link to our webinar recording page, our e-guides where we compile articles together. And if you don't have a collection management system and have been looking for one and have been weighing your options or want to move from another one that's not giving you the access that you need, you can contact us at any time and we'll give you a walkthrough of the platform, answer your questions. And so these resources are here for you as well, along with my email. And with that, we're going to, I haven't seen any Q&A come in. A lot of the common questions that we came in that I put on the slides came in before the presentation. People wrote in and asked their questions. Do you have anything, Samantha, to add? Any surprises or things that you're looking forward to tackling next in 2025, 2026? 2026 is around the corner.
yeah, I mean, this project I've been working on with our current intern, who came with some collection, we've really tried to hone in on interns that have some more collections experience and some experience dealing with objects. And so we're really working to, bring in the works that we're just, with moving into the new building 2 years ago, backlogged into bringing pieces in, but just getting things documented and, repacking and kind of like getting that space in our building, even though we're 2 years in, a little more settled and usable so that for the future, it's easier for things to come out versus like, where is that? What's that framed piece? So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been surprised by how many institutions I've heard that need to think about moving artworks, moving objects, whether it's to different buildings entirely or just doing updates to a particular wing or storage unit. And so it's definitely helpful to hear of your experience. And I'm noodling on an article in the future that can address that as well, because definitely, we have a couple of airport clients that are expanding and adding new terminals. And so they've been using Artwork Archive for keeping their artworks organized.
yeah. Where is it? Where is it in the building? So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's one building or, an entire terminal or campus or state public art program.
absolutely.
Well, with that, I think we took probably a day's workshop and synthesized it into something that hopefully gives everyone some to-dos, some inspiration, some nuggets to take back to their institution. Know that you're not alone in this journey. So again, my email is here in the slides, and it's Elysian, ELYSIAN at artworkarchive.com. So if you have any further questions, if there's any future topics that you want us to cover here at Artwork Archive, if you want to join a webinar like Samantha has and share your expertise, we're definitely open to it. So I just want to say thank you, Samantha, for all of your time and your insights, and we've learned so much from you, and I wish I could have you for more hours to share your experience.
Thanks for the opportunity. Always happy to share what we've been through as an institution. So,
Well, we appreciate the transparency, and thank you for everyone for joining. And again, the recording will be sent out along with the slides afterwards. And look out for the next Artwork Archive webinar.